This video is going to cover all of the hypnobirthing techniques that I used for both of my unmedicated labours. So my name is Frankie and I have two gorgeous daughters, Juno who is 2 and Rhea who is 4 months, and I gave birth to them both vaginally, unmedicated, using hypnobirthing techniques. So let's get straight into that now. So I'm going to say the first and most important hypnobirthing technique that I used was hypnobirthing breathing. Sounds simple. Everyone does it, but it is so effective. And there's 2 different types of breathing techniques that you're going to learn. And one of them is up breathing and one of them is down breathing. I found both of these really good and really instrumental in the way that I gave birth. And I definitely saw as well during that actual period of being in labour and delivering both of the girls, when I fell out of those hypnobirthing breathing techniques, when, you know, it became a little bit out of control or I wasn't in the zone, I struggled more. So it just goes to show that the breathing techniques definitely do work. I'll just run you through quickly what they are. So you have up breathing, which is for the first stage of labour, the up stage of labour, where your uterus muscles contract up to kind of then push the baby down, which leads on to the down stage of labour. So you have up stage of labour and down stage of labour. So the down stage of labour is when your uterus muscles contract down to push the baby out. So up breathing and down breathing works really well with the way that your muscles are working in that moment. So up breathing is the really relaxing one that's going to fill your muscles with oxygen in your body and just really help to keep you in control. So that is in for 4 seconds and out for 8. And also just a really good breathing technique in everyday life when things seem a little bit too much and you need to take a minute and just go back inside. The second breathing technique is down breathing. I find this one a little bit harder, but I did manage to do more of it with my second labour. I didn't really do much of it with my first. So down breathing is basically kind of working with your muscles to push the baby down. So you're going to take in a short breath and then exhale sort of down through your body, directing it. So when you're blowing out, you're kind of blowing down. It relaxes your muscles. And one thing that the hypnobirthing book that I read, which I really recommend, I'll link that at the end, is practice it when you're doing a poo. It helps to relax your muscles. It's the same area. You're pushing in the same area. Sometimes in labour, midwives will say to you, push really hard as if you're doing a really big poo. And it's the same sensation. You're pushing the same place. It's yeah. So when you enough poo chat. When you're on the toilet, we're going to go back to it. When you're in the toilet and you're doing a number 2, take in a short breath through your nose and breathe down through your body and exhale slowly. And that is down breathing. And that just helps to kind of relax your body, but also you have that element of pushing with that breath when you're exhaling down. Like I said, I definitely didn't do much of that with my first. I feel like I really pushed Juno out in a very short period of time. That's what felt right for me. With my second labour with Rhea, I still had that really intense pushing time. Again, something that just my body took over, and that's how I was going to get her out. But in the lead up to that pushing, I definitely did more down breathing. So I did touch on this a little bit a minute ago, but I think the main thing about the breathing techniques is the sense of control that it gives you and calm. So with all of the knowledge that you've learned from hypnobirthing, with everything else that you've been doing to prepare, other techniques that you're using during labour, this one just helps you keep calm, rational, in control. And that, I would say, is the most important thing when you're giving birth is trying to stay in control, trying not to let it take over your body, and breathing through it and using those breathing techniques really helps you to do that. Another key part of hypnobirthing that I found really important, and I used again more this time round with my second labour and delivery than my first, is visualisation. So I didn't use this much during my first pregnancy, purely because I'd never given birth before. I didn't really know what to expect. I couldn't imagine or prepare for that feeling. And I found it hard to visualize when I didn't really know much about what the sensation would feel like. Whereas second labour And second pregnancy, obviously I'd been through it before and I had managed to do it unmedicated. So I knew that I could do it. And I just visualized myself doing it again. And I kind of imagined things that I'd want to do differently. I'd imagine Rhea coming sort of through my body and into the world, coming out of my body. I visualized like the circumstances that I wanted it to be. I wanted to be in the water. I kind of pinpointed a date period that I'd like it to be. And I tried to really visualize how I wanted it to go. Obviously, it didn't go exactly how I had visualized, but key points of it did happen. And I'm really grateful for that. And I think visualization is really important. It's also kind of a way of manifesting what you want to happen. And even if it goes completely differently to what you've visualized, getting yourself in that birth headspace anyway would have been super beneficial. So yeah, take it with a pinch of salt and have an open mind as to how you want your birth plan to go. But visualize what you want it to look like. Visualize your baby coming into the world. Visualize them coming out of your body. Think about yourself having contractions, what that feels like for you, what that looks like, what that sounds like, I think is really important. And I did that a lot with Rhea because I think, like I said, I've given birth before and I knew the sensations and I spoke to her a lot and asked her to come. And yeah, the visualization is really important, and do some research about it because I might not have explained it how the hypnobirthing books explain it, but that's how I used visualization and I found that it really worked for me. Next up, we have affirmations. Now, I probably used affirmations a little bit more with my first pregnancy, purely because I had more time and I wasn't running around after a toddler. So I still had my affirmation cards up with my second pregnancy, and whenever I walked past them, I would kind of take it in mentally. And sometimes if I had a minute or two, I would stand in front of them and just kind of recite them out loud, think about them, think about the words, what the words meant. And I do think that that really helped. And this time as well with my second labor, when I was actually in labor, I was saying some of the affirmations, like my body can birth this baby, I am ready to meet my baby, all of the really lovely kind of affirmations. Now, I listened to an MP3 affirmation podcast type thing on Spotify. I think it was called The Mindful Mamas. I will link it below in the description. And I also had a downloadable MP3 because I bought the Positive Birth Company book, and I think there's a link or something in the back of that, maybe a QR code. So I had those, and I also had the birth affirmation cards. And I think, as well as kind of manifesting it and believing that you can do it, it also just keeps your mind thinking about birth and what's going to happen and how that might feel and when it's going to happen. And I think it just keeps your mind more open to what can happen. Because a lot of the affirmations are like, it doesn't matter when I meet my baby, or my body can birth my baby no matter the size. I know a lot of people worry about birthing big babies, or being overdue or being induced. And it just kind of goes through those eventualities and says, look, if that happens, that's okay, and we will get through it. And it's believing that. You have to believe that no matter how your baby comes into the world, whether you have 4 unmedicated labours or you have 4 cesareans or a VBAC or whatever, however you do it, it is birth, and it doesn't matter how you do it. And I think that affirmations really help you kind of get your head around, it doesn't matter how we do this, but we're going to do it no matter what. This baby is going to be earthside at some point. So I really like the affirmations. And I think affirmations and manifesting is really important in everyday life anyway. So thinking about what you want, visualizing yourself with it, affirming it is just, it's really good for the mind and the soul. So why wouldn't it be good when you're giving birth as well? So in the hypnobirthing book that I read, which is the Positive Birth Company's book, they speak a lot about kind of language, the information that you're taking in, what you're reading has like a huge effect on how you feel about birth. So obviously in the media, we see kind of women screaming and on their backs, laying on the bed, and epidurals and drugs and all sorts of things, which happens. A lot of people do give birth like that, but it's not very common. I think most people don't give birth laying flat on their back. They are in other positions. And yeah, it's just what we're fed through the media. So one thing that I've always done, because I've just always been really interested in births and birthing, is I've always watched positive birth stories and positive birth vlogs on YouTube. I have two. I will link them below so that you can watch them after this video if you'd like to. I think it's really important to fill your brain with positive experiences rather than hearing from people that have had negative experiences. I think we hear a lot of negative experiences because people want to share, they want to warn, and I get it. It's good to let people know that you didn't have a good experience and that X, Y, and Z happened. But I think when someone is pregnant and they're trying to prepare for a positive, unmedicated labour, whatever that labour may look like, I think filling someone's head with worry isn't necessarily the right thing to do. So what I would suggest is reading positive birth stories, listening to positive birth podcasts. So I listened to positive induction podcasts. I watched positive labour vlogs which had epidurals and interventions because I wanted to know what that looked like and how you could make it a positive experience with those things happening. And I found that really resourceful and really good for me. I'm a very visual learner, and actually watching things, watching people give birth and hearing the noises that they make and watching their partners care for them and how staff, kind of nurses, midwives, how they're treated by doctors. I found that all really beneficial to kind of go into the experience knowing exactly what to kind of do. So I watched a load of birth vlogs and listened to a load of positive birth stories before my first, and I did the same thing every morning with my second. When I was pregnant, I was really bad, I had really bad insomnia. So most days I was up from like 3, maybe 2, and I just sat on the sofa and ate biscuits and watched positive stories and listened to affirmations and practiced my breathing technique. So I feel like that time that I had for myself to prepare in that way really helped. And yeah, I would suggest that if you're going to give birth, fill your head with really positive information and positive words and good language. And to round all of that off, really, I would say the most important thing about going into birth and having a positive experience is knowledge. Knowledge is power in almost every field. The more you know, the better you feel. And that's exactly how I feel about almost everything. I don't really like to go into anything without knowing kind of a bit about the situation. And I think read as much as you can and learn as much as you can. I also found it really empowering to learn about different drugs and different interventions and the risks that they may involve. And yeah, I found that all really interesting mainly, and really empowering to know kind of exactly what could happen. It also helped me feel really in control, which I think is a massive thing. If you just want to have a good understanding, like, I just don't understand personally why someone would go into the birthing experience completely blind and just off the back of stories from their parents. Like, that was generations ago. They gave birth years ago. Things have definitely changed. All the midwives in the hospitals now know exactly what hypnobirthing is. You don't even have to tell them. I didn't even take a birth plan for my second labour because with my first, I didn't even show it to them. They were like, do you want to do this? And they were just reeling off all of the births, all the positive birth stuff. So hypnobirthing stuff. So I was like, you guys have got this. You know exactly what's going on. I think especially in Brighton as well, like they really encourage you to use hypnobirthing. They really encourage you to have home births if you can. Unfortunately, I couldn't with either of mine, but that's absolutely fine. I had such an amazing experience in hospital and was really well looked after both times. So yeah, knowledge is power all the way through. Read and watch and listen. And do you know what? Be brave and ask people if they want to share stuff with you. Maybe just be like, I'm only listening to positive stuff at the moment, so if there's any negativity in your story, then save it for after and we can have a good chat about it then. It's your pregnancy, your birth and your labour, and you can say no to whatever you want to do. So that is what I found the most kind of beneficial hypnobirthing techniques. I know that there are others, but these are the ones that I found most useful and the ones that I used and would use again in the future. If you have any questions, please pop them down below in the comments and I will get back to you and answer them. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. It's kind of just those main things, but again, hypnobirthing is all science-based. If you're not pregnant and you're just watching this for a jolly, I would recommend you read it anyway and get your birth partner to read it, whether that's your husband, wife, friend, sister, whatever the situation. Whatever information you take in, try and either tell your birth partner or get them in the positive mindset as well, because the birth partner experience is also quite intense and they have a lot to do too for you, the person that's giving birth. So I think it's really good that you're both kind of clued up on the knowledge, you're both got your positive pants on and you are ready to birth together. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to go and check out my birth stories and my birth vlogs, I have put them in the description down below. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and I will see you next week for my weekly upload. Lots of love. Bye.